Welcome back to the channel all about cooking for beginners. And today we're going to make authentic Chinese dumplings. Ingredients are on the screen now, and as a fair warning, this recipe takes a bit of time, but it will serve anywhere from 6 to 8 people. So with that in mind, we start with our flour, to which we add our lukewarm water, then stir it around to form a shaggy dough. Once we get our shaggy dough, we turn the ball over onto our work surface and start kneading it. Because of the low hydration, it's going to be a little stiff to work with. If you need to add some additional water, feel free to do so. But we need to knead the dough for a good solid 5 minutes. So to do that, instead of pushing down like most people, you need to push out and then pull it back in, rotating the dough 90 degrees as necessary. Once the dough is smooth, supple, and no longer sticking to you or the table, we ball it up, put it in a container, cover it, and let it rest while we prepare the filling. So to start with the filling, we have our Napa cabbage. You can either mince this up finely by hand, like in the video, or you can use a food processor. If you're going to mince it out by hand, try holding the knife down on one end and fanning out the cuts. Put the chopped cabbage in a bowl and add a little bit of salt to it. We'll let this sit for a bit to draw out the water. Next up is the ginger, which I peel with a spoon because it's easier to maneuver and you take off less of the flesh. Once skinned, we cut it up and then mince it just like we did with the cabbage. Lastly, we have the spring onions, so remove the root ends and then just like the cabbage and the ginger, mince it up finely. Now for the meat. Here we have our ground pork, to which we add the salt and then stir it in just a bit to incorporate the salt. Next, we add the water and soy sauce in small additions while stirring in one direction. The water and soy sauce will help the mixture retain moisture and season it, and stirring in one direction will help the proteins form a stronger mesh network, which we'll talk about later. The mixture might seem very stiff at first, but as you add your additions of water and soy sauce, it'll loosen up and become much easier to mix. So keep adding your water and soy sauce in batches and keep stirring, and eventually you'll get to this point. If you look closely, you can see strands of protein like spaghetti. This is that protein network we're talking about that will help the mixture retain moisture and stay juicy. Mixing in one direction forms this network more quickly. Next up, we add a tablespoon of sesame oil and the ginger and spring onions, and again, stir in one direction. After the cabbage is sat for 30 minutes, grab a handful and wring it dry. There's a lot of water, so give it a really good squeeze. Then add it to the meat and once again, mix. And now for assembly. So lightly flour a work surface, grab a chunk of the dumpling dough and lightly knead it in the flour. Then poke a hole in the center of the dough, stretch it out, and then tear it to form one rope. Roll this rope in between your hands until it's about the width of your thumb. Now we're going to tear pieces off of the rope. They should be about the size of half your thumb, or maybe just a little bit larger. After you've torn the pieces, we roll them up into balls and then smush them flat. The authentic way I was taught to roll the dough was to have one hand on the rolling pin, the other hand on the dough. The rolling pin hand rolls from the edge to the center, while the dough hand slightly pulls the dough, and rotate as needed. The reason we do this is to get a thicker middle and thinner edges, and with a thicker middle, that means you can put more filling in. And now to fill. So take your dough and put just under a tablespoon of the filling in the center of the dough. Then pull the two opposite edges and then join them together. Then, using your thumb and the base of your pointer finger, seal the edges, starting with the side that looks like it'll have less room. And once more, here's how you fill the dumpling. A good tip also is to press the filling down with a spoon after you put it in to get rid of any air. Then, once you've assembled all of your dumplings, it's time to cook them. So bring a large pot of water to a boil, and then using a slotted spoon, make a whirlpool in the water. Then drop your dumplings into the whirlpool. If that motion ever stops, use your spoon and give it another stir, making another whirlpool. The reason for this is so that the dumplings don't stick to each other or the bottom of the pot. So then, you let the dumplings boil. Once the water gets to a boil, pour some cold water into the pot. Give it a gentle stir, put the heat on medium, and bring it to a boil once again. You're going to repeat this process 2 more times. After the 3 times, take your slotted spoon, pick up your dumplings, and make sure to drain them very well before putting them on the plate so that they stick together as little as possible. And with that, we're done. Enjoy your authentic Chinese dumplings. Again, this recipe serves 6 to 8 people, or just 4 with plenty of leftovers. I hope you found this recipe useful, and for more videos, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.